Hi everyone, my name is Aaron Gravesdale. I'm a solution engineer here at PDFTron. And today what I'm going to be doing is talking about using PDFTron's technology stack, specifically within financial software. So I'm going to kind of focus on the parts of our technology stack, the parts of our platform that really apply to financial services, and how particular offerings of ours can really help out in that domain. Now, just a bit of background about PDFTron. So PDFTron started a couple of decades ago, really around the time that the PDF specification was first published. And our initial product offering was a native toolkit that we still offer called PDFTron PDF SDK. That's a code base that we initially developed for Windows. And over the years have ported to a variety of other platforms like Linux or Mac OS or mobile platforms like iOS or Android or UWP. And what we did a couple of years ago was we took that same technology stack, that same platform, that same code base, and ported it over to the web. So that meant that we could offer the exact same APIs and the same functionality, but in pure HTML5 JavaScript entirely within the web browser without relying on any sort of external services or anything like that. So that really opens up a lot of the functionality available within the browser when it comes to PDF documents. And the reason why is that our technology platform really offers functionality around the entire document lifecycle. So whether that's the beginning of the document lifecycle when documents are first created, we have functionality and APIs around converting documents from other formats like images or Office documents or SVG, HTML, CAD files as well. So we have a lot of functionality around converting from other formats, but also from creating documents from scratch. Manually placing images or text or vector information into, say, a new PDF document, or taking multiple PDFs and merging them together, making a new file out of that. We also have functionality around kind of the document improvement stage, kind of when we're making documents more developed and more mature. So things like optimizing PDF documents to do things like optimize embedded fonts and subset them so that the file space taken up by the document is a lot smaller. We can also do things like optimize images, resampling them, or recompressing them to more efficient formats. We can do things like adding form fields onto documents so that if you have maybe a form that was sent over fax or a scan, that you can then turn that back into a usable, fillable form that users can click on and fill out pretty easily. We have technology for OCRing documents so that you can take those same kinds of scanned documents and turn them back into searchable PDFs, ones where you can select text and copy it out, or search the text within it. Additionally, we have functionality for the everyday usage of documents. So doing things like bringing them up in an interactive viewer, scrolling through documents, zooming, adding annotations onto PDF documents, interactively searching them, sharing annotations with other users to collaborate potentially in real time on the same document, or collaboratively form filling a single document. And then we have functionality for kind of the end of life of documents, the end stage of the document lifecycle. Doing things like adding a digital signature to kind of finalize the content and say, we've signed off on this document and it shouldn't be changed further. Or doing things like redacting content from a PDF document. So removing images or text from a PDF so that it removes any confidential or classified information and therefore can be disseminated more widely. And we have conversion to sort of finalization formats such as PDFA. So really covering the entire document lifecycle means that our offering covers a wide gamut of what other toolkits can do, and we offer the same functionality across platforms, so that makes it very easy to shift operations from client side to server side, or to port any sort of customizations or any kind of operation to different platforms. So as a result, it's a very flexible toolkit, and one that's very useful for a lot of different industries. But again, today what I'm going to be focusing on are features and use cases addressed by those features that tend to be associated with finance. And so as I'm talking here, here in the webinar software, we have some chat and questions fields. So, if you do have any questions, or if you do have any issues you'd like to bring up, feel free to post those directly within the webinar here, and I'm happy to address any of those. So let's see, just to get started. So it looks like we do have a question already about file types. So one of the questions was about our Office conversion. So inside of WebViewer, what I'm going to do, actually, just to get this started, is bring up our live demo here. And we have that available on our website. If you go to PDFTron.com, just our homepage here, and if you go to Documentation, Web, and then Launch Demo, that will bring up our live demo, where essentially you can try out all of the functionality that I'm going to be describing here today. So by default, it loads up this PDF document, but you can open a local file if you wish. So if you have a document that you'd like to try out and see what the performance is like, this demo is a great way to do that. You can upload, files that maybe you've tried viewing in other viewers and maybe didn't look correct, so you can see the rendering within WebViewer here. And additionally, we have some built-in files as well, of Office and images and CAD. So this is a great way for you to try out your documents and see what the performance is actually like inside of WebViewer. And since WebViewer is running client only in this setup, you can really get a sense by loading up in say a mobile browser or an underpowered browser or whatever your users happen to use. And so you can really get a sense of what the experience would be like for them using their typical documents and their typical machine setup or device setup and the browsers they typically use. You can just load up our WebViewer demo here and recreate that experience and kind of get a preview of what things would be like if you were to deploy PDFTron within your solution. And so our Office conversion that we can actually show directly here inside of this demo. This is actually using our direct built-in conversion. So we have our own Office conversion that we developed ourselves from the ground up, just like we did with our PDF rendering. This code base is something that since we developed, we can address any issues in terms of fidelity or performance. So if you try out some documents and things aren't looking as expected for whatever reason, feel free to forward those to our support and we'll be happy to take a look. You can actually get to our support from that homepage, so pdftron.com. And if I go to support and resources, if I click on free trial tech support, I can fill out an issue here, describe the problem, and even upload files. And that will contact our support department directly. And again, since we developed our Office conversion ourselves, that means that we can take a look at anything that might be going wrong inside of the conversion and address that directly. And our demo here is actually based off of our production build. If you go here back to this documentation and web menu, and instead of going to launch demo, if you were to go to overview, then you'd get to sort of our WebViewer section of our site. We have a lot of guides here that describe how to get started with WebViewer, as well as how to address some of the different use cases present in WebViewer. So, if you wanted to learn how to measure PDF documents or learn more about redaction, what's going on at a low level, and what some of the applicable code might be, you can find that all here, as well as our FAQ and an API reference, our change logs so that you can get a sense of our release cadence and some of the things that we've addressed. And as well, you can download WebViewer from here as well. So here we have actually the full production build of WebViewer that you can download and try out in your environment. So this is byte-wise identical to what you would run in production. essentially when you're downloading it and trying it out, it's running in evaluation mode instead of production mode. And the only difference between those two modes is just that we have a watermark that's sometimes appended to output. The other big difference is that we make sure that all functionality is enabled when you're running in evaluation mode. So, you know, if you want to try out our redaction or OCR or our office conversion, all of that functionality is enabled. So you can really put it through its paces and make sure that it's going to work for you and your documents, you know, prior to licensing. So, so we had a question posted about, you know, is the resulting PDF in the demo the same as in other PDFTron offerings, such as through C++? And because that is the same code base that's running within the browser or within native code, the output would be the same for each of those. The only difference might be in some environmental factors, such as what fonts are available, but all of that is configurable when setting up WebViewer. So getting back to just kind of our basic demo here. What's going on inside of this demo that's a bit different than other offerings for viewing PDF documents within the browser is that what we're doing is actually rendering the PDF itself. So what some other solutions will do is have a server-side component that converts the document into some other format. Typically that's an image, usually a pretty high resolution image so that you can still see details. But sometimes it might be another format like HTML or SVG. And that approach makes a lot of sense in that you're really able to get a document presented within the viewer, you know, within a browser very quickly, and it seems to work for simple documents. And so it's an approach that a lot of our customers will take initially, but they'll come to us usually after they've tried that for a bit, because they find that they've run into problems with converting from another format, or converting from PDF into some other format and then showing that in the browser. So sort of the most common approach is to convert to an image. And the downsides with that are that when we send that to the browser, we've lost a lot of the information that was inside of the original PDF. But here, rendering a PDF document directly, I still have access to the text inside of the document. And that means I can interact with this document in a very similar way to how I'd interact with the PDF using native desktop software. So, you know, I can go in and make annotations, selecting text, highlight things. I can do things like select text and copy that out to the clipboard. I can also interactively search within the document as well. And get a list of all the search results. So let's say I just want to see the word "and." I can see, you know, wherever the word "and" appears inside of the document and scroll through the results, and as well extract the text from the document to show ambient information about where each of the search results was found. Additionally, because I'm dealing with a PDF copy of the document instead of just a high-resolution image, that means that fine-grained vector content is preserved as vector content. So that's very useful for zooming in and seeing fine-grained details. Or if I have a financial document, maybe like a financial report that has fine-grained text, you know, something that might be a bit hard to read with just an image. But with our software, because we preserve the text as text, we can render that fine-grained data even when zooming way in. So in terms of making annotations on top of the document, the kinds of edits that I can make on top of this file are very similar to the kinds that I would make in you know, desktop PDF viewing software. So for example, I can draw a rectangle over the page and add text directly onto the document. So I can say, for example, you know, let's revisit this page. I can also edit this this appearance here, so that text size is something I can bring down to make a bit less a bit less large there, and I can edit various other things as well, like the thickness of the border, the opacity of annotation, or things like the colors of the annotation. Now, we have a variety of annotation types built in, but it's quite possible to customize any of these. You could make your own custom shapes or custom colors, or even make dedicated annotations that might have your own logic built into them for doing things like advancing workflow. Now let's see, someone was asking whether PDFTron can produce statistics like word count, character count, page count, or language from Office files. And certainly what we can do is extract the text from documents and calculate statistics based on that. So, you know, as we bring up a document here inside of the viewer, we get 16 pages here, and that's very easy to detect. And as well, we can extract the text from the document as well. So within the file, what we can do is grab the entire text from the page and extract that programmatically. So here in this sample, we've kind of shown that. We've grabbed page 2 here, we've extracted that and put this into a custom HTML control. The actual underlying code sample here is quite small, so it's really just this load page text call here. We'll essentially grab the text from this PDF page and extract it out. Additionally, we can draw annotations on top of the document and extract the text from inside of that area. So if there's a particular paragraph that you'd like to extract out for data extraction purposes, maybe some analysis that you'd like to do over particular text in the document, that's quite doable within WebViewer. Additionally, we have, as I mentioned earlier, OCR tools, which are available within our native platform. So if you had a scanned image and wanted to extract searchable text from that as well, that's entirely possible too. We also have an advanced version of this that I just wanted to briefly mention, and that's our machine learning technology. And this is something that's really still under development on our side, but something that we'll have a release for later this year. And that's the ability to automatically detect structures from within a PDF document. Things like headers and footers or tables or other kinds of high-level structural information that's not present in PDF documents, but that our technology can infer in many cases, just based on the layout of content within a PDF page. So that's something that we're still in the process of developing, but we have a demo available of the current state of the technology. And that's something that I brought up here. You can actually upload your own document to try it out, but we have a sample document shown here where what we've done is detect the regions of tables on a page. And so that makes it much easier to look for relevant financial information within a PDF document and go in and extract it, for example, to populate a database so that you have a record of financial information that could then be queried and analyzed. Now, what we've shown here visually in this demo is just the highlighted tables that we've detected, but we can also download the extracted XHTML. So that's HTML that is pretty easy to take a look at because it's compliant with XML. So here I can just show that here. And essentially what it is HTML that is that's structured as XML, so you can go in with any XML parser and extract that tabular information programmatically. So that makes it much easier to get started analyzing and processing PDF documents with financial information in them. And again, that's something that we're planning to make more widely available and productize later this year. But we have this early preview version here at PDFTron.ai. Let's see, just checking on some of the questions here. Someone was asking, will the feature for machine learning be able to do footing and summation of tables? So it may or may not have that functionality built in, but because we're basically giving the underlying tabular data as XHTML. That means that you can always programmatically grab and process that data. Someone was asking whether it's possible also to index a document or create a table of contents. So built into PDF is a table of contents feature. So that's something that we can kind of take a look at here in our files gallery. This document down here, I now has a built-in set of outline information built into the document itself. And this is something that many PDF documents have that allow you to jump to different sections within the file. So for example, there might be different chapters or different subsections, or just arbitrary links that are useful for end users to have access to. And those can be baked directly into the PDF document itself so that anyone can navigate very quickly through the document. So usually when our customers are asking for sort of a table of contents or something along those lines, this feature is a very useful one to provide. And it's one that we're able to support because we have true PDF rendering here inside of the browser. We're not just converting to an image server side and then bringing that down, because that would lose all of this information. The same with converting to HTML or SVG. By preserving the document as a PDF, we're able to support these advanced features. We also have different ways of adding links as well. So one of those methods would be to highlight some section of text or make another kind of annotation on the document. Bring this one up instead. Or we can even do some other kind of annotation like an underline here. So what I could do is underline this part of the document and add in a link to some other page in this file. So let's say I wanted to make this a link to page 5, say in a table of contents document. All I had to do was add an annotation to that area of the document and set up this link. And now that text is a clickable link that jumps to that section of the file. I can also jump back to it here by just going back to the annotation and navigating that way here in the left pane. So it makes for a very easy way to enable end users to set up links to different sections of the document or to link to newly add pages as they merge different documents together and assemble them into something that can be consumed by other users. In terms of bookmarks, we also have the notion of user bookmarks that are a little more similar to what users are used to from web browsers. So the idea is you can kind of bookmark a particular section of a page that you're on and then jump back to that later, but it's not something that's baked into the document or really shared with other users. Now, these annotations that I'm making are true PDF annotations. So these are compliant with the annotations shown in other viewers like Acrobat. We have some default ones built in here, sort of the most common kinds of markups that our users ask for. So things like being able to draw freehand, or add text, or highlight, or strike through or underline text. The ability to draw shapes like circles or lines, or especially cloudy annotations. We have the ability to erase some of these as well, so we have this eraser tool. We have the ability to add text to a page or add comments, and we have the ability for signatures as well. Now we have a few different ways of adding signatures. So one of those ways is that I could add an e-signature here, just as kind of a drawing that I've added to a page. But that's not the only way that we have to add signatures. And another way is through signature fields that can be present on the document. And a great way to sort of see web viewers' power here is actually to upload an image document. So what I've done is I've taken the second page of a 1040 form and just taken a screenshot of it. So it's a pretty ugly scan, basically, of the form. We see if we zoom in here that this text is pretty awful and anti-aliased. So if I were filling out this form, I think as an end user, I probably would not be very happy with it. But one way to make that a lot more usable would be to add form fields directly onto the page. And we can actually do that here inside of WebViewer. So if I go to the form building sample here, what I can do is actually generate a new signature field and position that right on top of this scanned document. And then afterwards, what I can do is convert it into an interactive field. And now I can go in and sign this as well. I can actually reuse my existing signature, or I can add a new one. Let me see here. I can take a nicer one here. So I can take that one and add that directly into the document. And then if I were to download this, we would see that it's saved right into that file. So that signature is present there on the document. Now, what I've done here is just make an e-signature. I haven't made a true digital signature. And there's a bit of a difference between these two kinds of signatures. So an e-signature is just one that contains the appearance of it. So, you know, me typing my name here, or me maybe drawing some squiggles to apply my signature onto a document. That's just an e-signature. But PDF also contains the ability to create true digital signatures as well. And those are ones where you can go in after the fact and see whether the document has been modified after having been signed. So that's performed by making a cryptographically sound hash of the document and embedding that into the file. So that way, if any of the contents of the document ever change and we recalculate that hash, we'll see that it adds up to a different value because the contents are different. And that lets us say, oh, this document has been changed since it's been signed, so therefore the signature is no longer valid. Now, I can do that on a signature by signature basis if my users have certificates that have been assigned to them. But in practice, a lot of the times, end users don't necessarily have their own certificates that they've been assigned. In some legal jurisdictions, for example, in India, citizens are assigned an Aadhaar certificate. So that lets them perform digital signatures very easily. But in other legal environments, such as in the US, not everyone has a digital signature. And the problem of public key infrastructure, of resolving a certain person to, you know, their canonical certificate is a quite difficult problem. So one way around that is with yet another kind of signature on PDF documents, one called a certification signature. And that's something that PDFTron software supports as well. And what that is a signature that applies to the entire document as a whole. And it's not tied to any field or anything like that. But it's usually created by whatever organization is providing the overall solution. So for example, if I were to provide a signature solution in my, you know, say like a SaaS service that I was offering to users, what I could do is make up a certificate for myself, but not for the users who were signing. And what I could do is enable users to log into my system and make e-signatures on the document. And I could have multiple users kind of log in, make their e-signatures, and guide all of the signatories through a signature workflow. And then at the end, what I could do is use my certificate to make a certification signature across the entire document. That's a workflow that we really recommend to a lot of our customers who are trying to provide digital signature workflows to their users, because that's kind of the best of both worlds, we find, when it comes to digital signatures, because you don't have to give each user their own certificate and don't have to try to solve these public key infrastructure problems. But at the same time, you can still get the benefits of digital signatures by making that certification signature at the end, because you can still see whether the document has been modified after having been signed. But you just need one certificate that you have and that you keep secure on your servers. So that's a methodology that we recommend as a good starting point if you're thinking about offering digital signatures within your solution. But of course, a lot of that depends on what legal regimes you're working within and you know, what the requirements of your end users actually are. Let's see. So in addition to some of these signature features, another useful thing about WebViewer is the security that we can sort of enforce for documents. So with the WebViewer UI, you can customize a lot of its behavior and appearance. We have some high-level APIs that are built in for things like, let's say, removing download or print or text selection from a document, just as a way of kind of making it harder for the end user to grab this content. And we have very high-level APIs for doing so. So we have just this disable elements call is enough to get rid of these elements from the UI so that the user no longer has a download or print button available to them, and text selection is disabled, so they would find it harder to extract the text from the document. Now, we have other APIs for things like removing different annotation tools as well. So you can really streamline the UI for whatever your users need to do, and kind of simplify things so that even sort of lower skilled users find it to be a very intuitive interface, and you could even really tailor it to whatever workflow they need to provide. But if you find that our built-in APIs for customizing the user interface maybe aren't sufficient for your needs, we actually have posted the full UI source code of WebViewer to GitHub. So that means if there's anything about this UI that you'd like to change around or rearrange or customize or add your own logic or analytics into, all of that can be done simply by going to our GitHub and forking the WebViewer UI and making your own clone of that. Just wanted to bring that out there as kind of something very useful, just in case you really need to customize it to your needs. But a lot of the times, this ability to disable elements is very useful, and as I mentioned, it's sort of one way of kind of locking down the document. And returning back to the question that someone posted, another thing that you can do in terms of locking that down is offering a watermark on top of the document too. So, for example, we have the ability to just kind of display some text over the document, so we can write the word confidential. Or alternately, this could be a username here, so we could identify who is viewing this document. And the idea behind this watermark is that even if the user takes a screenshot of the document, or even snaps a picture of the screen with the camera in a mobile device, that you would still have the watermark on top of this document. So you'd have some sense of who leaked this information, if they did happen to grab just a screenshot of the file. And additionally, just in terms of locking down the document, we have support as well for encrypted PDF documents. So if you wanted to apply a password to a file server side, even like, say, a randomly generated one, what you could then do is send the password down through a secondary channel to the browser, say through a WebSocket connection or some other means of the browser retrieving an encrypted copy of the password. And then WebViewer can actually apply that to the document as it's opening it without the user seeing any sort of password dialog or even knowing that the document was encrypted. So that way, if they do manage to grab a copy of the file's bytes, they wouldn't have the password used to open it. And in general, WebViewer is able to make it pretty difficult for users to actually grab a copy of the original PDF document. We can make sure that no bytes are saved onto local storage at all or cached locally. And as well, WebViewer supports something called byte range requests, so that users so that when the document is downloaded, it's downloaded in chunks that are much harder to reconstitute into a contiguous file. Someone was asking, can you blur out portions of the PDF for permissions? So certainly you could do that. I mean, again, WebViewer's UI is highly customizable, so you can add in anything you like. As the page changes, there are events that are raised. So, as the user is scrolling through, you could add UI elements over the displayed document to blur them out, or you could write that into the PDF document directly to help obscure some of that. But that gets awfully close to something called redaction. And simply obscuring information is something that's a bit perilous at times if we're not doing it correctly. So that's something that we've paid a lot of attention to within PDFTron SDK, because redaction can be very risky if you do it in a slipshod fashion. So what a lot of providers will do if you're redacting content from a PDF document is they might just overlay, say, a black rectangle over it. So maybe you have confidential information or personally identifying info within a PDF, and you want to somehow get rid of that, or anonymize the document so that you can share it outside of your organization. So just covering that up seems like it might be a good way to go, but there are some downsides to that within the PDF format. And one of those is that if you're just overlaying a black rectangle and saving a new copy, then if you bring up that PDF in a slow viewer, something that displays it very slowly, then oftentimes you'll see the text for a brief second, and then you'll see the black rectangle over it, because of just how PDF rendering is structured of elements being displayed within the Z order. So that's, of course, a big security risk. And it is something that we have avoided with our redaction solution. So instead of just overlaying a black rectangle, what we do is we fully eradicate that content from the underlying PDF document. So we can kind of see that here in this sample. What we've done is created candidate rectangles for different things that we might want to redact from this file. So here we have a company name that we've kind of detected and drawn an annotation over, just as a way to alert the possibility of redacting from this section of the document. And of course, users can come in and make their own redaction annotation candidates on here, or even search for text. So if we wanted to do something like search for the word vendor, or actually what we could do is use a regular expression here as well. So if we wanted to search for a 4-digit code followed by street, then we could search for that and find it, and then add a new redaction rectangle on that area as well. And so our idea here is that different users can come in here and kind of review and approve these different candidate redactions. So maybe someone goes through and offers possible areas to redact, and then maybe someone else can go through and approve each of those and actually burn those into the document. And they can do that one at a time or all at once. Here I'll just do these one at a time. I'll just remove that one alone from the document. And maybe I'll say that, well, the rest of this is not confidential information, and I'll just keep that around. And if I download that copy of the PDF document, we can actually take a look at it in a low-level editor like Acrobat. Let me actually bring that up. And I'm just going to share that window now. And I misspoke earlier. This actually did redact all of those candidates from that section when I did download. But this, being Acrobat Pro, lets me go in and edit the PDF elements here from the page. And what I can do is actually move aside this redaction rectangle. And what we can see is that from the area that was actually redacted, that text is fully eradicated from the file. Now, it seems there's an error in the sample here that it's actually keeping these rectangles around to obscure them and not actually redacting from underneath there. But for this one that I clicked and approved the redaction of, that did fully remove it here from the underlying document. So we can see here inside of Acrobat that text under there is totally gone. Now that's true of both image and text information inside of the document. For example, if there were an image here that I were redacting a section from, that would go in and black out the section of the image underneath that redaction information. And the other thing that I really wanted to point out within this sample is that when we're redacting from the PDF, we're leaving the existing content as is. So the existing content here was text information. And what we're not doing is just converting that into an image to black out the pixels of. So we're not just taking this entire page, replacing it with an image with some sections blacked out. Rather, what we're doing is going in at a low level and making sure that that content is fully eradicated from the document, but leaving the rest of the page's content as is, so that it's still searchable and still accessible to users who need that content to be actual born digital text instead of just an image. So let me just reshare my screen here. Okay, so let's see. So we've gone through form filling, signatures, and the UI customization. We've talked a bit about security and data extraction. And I think the other area that I really like to cover here inside of this demo is the ability to collaborate on a single document in real time. So in order to show that, what I've done is I've set up our web viewer locally here. So if you go to PDFTron.com and go to documentation, web, and our guides here, within our downloads you can directly grab web viewer, download it, and it's just a couple of npm commands to get it up and running locally within your environment. Basically just npm install and then npm start. Now, there's no real dependency on Node, but it's just the library that we've used to get the samples up and running as quickly as possible within the most environments. So, we found that many of our users are used to the Node ecosystem, and so that's why we've set it up as kind of an easy way to get going. But we have users who use a wide variety of frameworks. We have support for React, Angular, Svelte, Vue, as well as Node.js. We also have Salesforce support built into the library. So whatever web stack you're standardized on, WebViewer should be customizable with it. It's really just pure HTML JavaScript. So it's very easy to go in and embed that within your application. But what I've done is just sort of set up our default viewer here, and that's brought up our out-of-the-box samples. And within here, we have some samples for collaboration. So I can come in here, and what I'm going to do is just close these other tabs. Within here, we have a built-in demo for collaborating within this viewer. And so let's see, earlier I logged in as the Aaron user. It asked me for a username, and what we can do is go in and make annotations as that user. So for example, I can add a highlight here, and we see that it's under the Aaron name. It's extracted the text here, and what I can do is, let's say maybe this is a document, let's say a contract that myself and maybe some other people within my organization are reviewing and making sure is good to go before being sent out to someone. So what I can do is, I've highlighted this piece of text, and maybe I want someone else to take a look at it. So I could say, hey, could you take a look? So let's say that maybe I'm thinking that this text needs to be reworded, that important factors isn't quite right in terms of phrasing, and that's something else that maybe we should revise before sending out. So what I can do here is add a comment, and note what I've done is I've said @, and then I've given another user's name. That's something that we've added within the latest iteration of WebViewer. So essentially we have custom APIs that let you pass in a set of names that will be checked against @ mentions. And as well, you can set up email addresses and callbacks so that when those are added in and when I click reply, that you can send something out to those users, either through an email or through whatever custom functionality you'd like. Maybe it's something within, say, your backend system that can alert users to notifications from other users, or maybe some third-party thing like a Slack notice. But basically, the idea is that we can alert other users to something they should take a look at. Now, what I'm going to do is copy this over to another window here. And what I'm going to do actually is stop sharing just this one individual window and start sharing my entire screen. 1 second. So we're apologies for the breaking the universe there. Let's see. Let's cover that. Cover that up. And so, okay, so let's say this this user is Betty. Betty is now viewing this same document and can see this same thread from the Aaron user, and can actually make a comment here. Let's revise this later. After making that reply, we see that it shows up instantly for the other viewer in the other browser. So that means that two users can kind of work back and forth and collaborate in real time on the same document. Another thing that makes this workflow a bit more intuitive is that we've recently also added the ability to have annotation states associated with a given comment thread. So, for example, we could say accepted or rejected, or even make custom states if we wish. So maybe, if there's a specific kind of workflow that we need to follow, maybe for reviewing text or for reviewing other elements of the document, maybe there are different users who need to analyze different parts of the document, or review legal requirements for things, or validate different kinds of things within this file. We can really set up almost like a finite state machine for each of the steps of that workflow and encode them in here so that users can come in and kind of advance each of these comment threads through that particular workflow, for each. And if you've ever used, say, Google Docs, it's kind of a similar sort of notion where you can collaborate together on a given part of the document and say accepted or rejected, or any other states that might apply. And as we apply it to one comment thread, as we can see, it shows up for the other user as well. Just jumping back to the viewer here. So that's something I would recommend doing is downloading our samples and trying them out locally. We have a lot of the functionality shown at our showcase, but there are a lot of other things that are just within the samples here for WebViewer. So things like the 3-panel diff, the ability to show 2 different variants of the same document that might have been revised, and highlight what's different between the 2 documents. These are all included with our advanced samples. Let's see, someone else is asking whether it's possible to auto-generate and add content like a QR code. And certainly you could add whatever custom content you'd like onto this page. So we have built in here a variety of annotation types. Within, say, our stamp tool here, we have some built-in stamps, but you can add your own custom stamps as well. And if you do have an image that you wanted to stamp onto a PDF document, that's something that's very easy to do with our toolkit. We actually have a sample here that shows that. If I go to annotation and add a stamp annotation, you can see that I can add approved or not approved stamps. These are actually vector. But I can add an image as well. So that form image that I added earlier, that screenshot that I took of a form, we can actually make that into a stamp and stamp it directly onto the page, just as a way of demonstrating that possibility. But that could, of course, be any image you like. That's just kind of an easy way to make a new stamp, but we can create a stamp out of really any kind of content you like. For example, we can take a PDF page and stamp it onto another PDF page. So if you have content that you can convert into a PDF, that means we can use that then as a stamp on top of the PDF. So if you have existing SVG content or something built up inside of docx or HTML, we can convert those into PDF, preserving vector information whenever possible, and then stamp that onto the PDF page. Also, since WebViewer's UI is entirely open, you can customize anything you'd like about the viewer, and you can overlay custom UI elements as well. So if you wanted to make your own custom dynamic stamp that might have some extra information or auto-populated information that maybe changes programmatically based on your own callbacks to some external system, that would be possible as well. It would just be a matter of customizing WebViewer to add that in. Someone was asking about accessibility within WebViewer. Now, one of the most important things for accessibility is the ability to extract the text of the document so that you can drive screen readers or other tools to help the disabled. And so first and foremost, our ability to extract text is something that we always point out in terms of accessibility. Because we have the full PDF document here within the viewer, additionally, we can also grab low-level accessibility information from the PDF file itself. Specifically, within PDF pages, a lot of times there will be marked content, kind of similar to the alt text inside of an HTML document. You know how, like, if you're on a web page and you're hovering over an image, sometimes you'll see alternative text that describes that image. So you'll hover over a tree, and it will, it will bring up a little box that says, a picture of a tree. So that way, you could drive that through a screen reader, and a visually impaired user would be able to know that that's a picture of a tree that they're looking at. So the same sort of thing is possible inside of a PDF file, and with our APIs, you can go in and extract that information from the PDF. Alternatively, also, you can bake that information into a PDF file as well. So we have full PDF editing within the browser here. We can do things like re-edit pages at a low level and bake that information in. And that's something that actually it might be worth going into a bit more, because within WebViewer we have a lot of PDF editing capabilities that are just already there. For example, deleting pages from the underlying document, or rotating pages, or moving pages around within the file. Those are all possible from our thumbnail UI here. And as well, you can do things like merge different documents together entirely inside of WebViewer, so that way users can essentially assemble documents here within this interface, merge them into a single packet, and then download that fully merged copy. Someone else is asking about modifying the original structure of the PDF, for example, moving text around inside of the document, or changing font size. So PDF is a very low-level format. It's not like other formats like text or Word files or other WYSIWYG formats where it's very easy to go in and edit text directly. PDF is sort of the assembly language of document formats. Semantically, it's very low level, and you can take other high-level formats like Word or HTML and compile them down to PDF. But we do have some capabilities for editing text of a PDF document. As we saw before, you can remove text with Redactor, and of course we can add new text onto the page, essentially through this same kind of interface where we add text onto it, and then we can flatten that onto the page to make it into true PDF content. Of course, we might want to make it into a nicer looking piece of text there, but that's all possible with Our reformatting, yeah. So we can actually make this into, you know, sort of nice looking text and then flatten that onto the PDF page after we've added it. So these kinds of edits are possible. We also have the ability to replace text placeholders within a PDF. So similar to a mail merge operation that you might have used in other programs, if you have a PDF document that's a template that has placeholders for things like first name and last name or image placeholders, then our Content Replacer API can go through programmatically and swap out those placeholder values for concrete values that you provide, and that way you can basically bulk edit a large series of PDF documents. We also have samples within our toolkits that show some other editing APIs. For example, here our element edit sample shows how to go through a PDF and change all of the text color to blue or strip out all of the images from a page. So really the possibilities are endless. It's just whatever you'd like to actually provide within the viewer. And just as a note, all of that kind of functionality can be run inside of the viewer as well, because we've taken our native toolkit and compiled it over to JavaScript. Someone was asking about the HTML report that comes from PDFTron.ai, and that's something that you can go to our demo and download and try out for yourself. Cool. So I think that answers all of the questions that we've posted here today. If there is any more information that you'd like, or if there are any additional questions you have, or if you try out any of our technology and run into any roadblocks, you can please feel free to reach out to us directly. If you go to pdftron.com and support and resources, then you can go to free trial tech support and reach out to us immediately with any questions you have, or if there are any additional clarifications you might like. And then a link to this recorded webinar will be sent after it completes. So please feel free to reach out with any questions. And thanks so much for attending. I appreciate it. Have a great day.